This is CBC Here and Now.
We deserve a little better from the Government of Canada than to have them, side with activists and to potentially shut down our industry.
Two delays from the federal government worries the province's offshore oil and gas industry.
Why the federal energy minister is warning not to read too much into it.
Well, the weather will be quiet tomorrow, but a big mess of weather heading in for the weekend.
We're literally sitting down with those Ukrainians. We have one-on-one meetings. We're helping with applications.
The province's immigration team is in Warsaw trying to help Ukrainians come to this province.
We'll hear from one of the members just ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, two delays in the offshore oil industry by the federal government so far this winter.
First, a delay in the environmental approval for the Bay du Nord oil project, and now a delay in approving offshore oil and gas exploration by up to 90 days. As
Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports, members of the province's oil industry are worried those delays may harm the economy.
For some, the delay in the call for offshore exploration bids has heightened fears about the future of the oil industry and the province's economy.
Yeah, it's disturbing. We deserve a little better from the Government of Canada than to have them, side with activists and to potentially shut down our industry.
Oil industry players are paying close attention to every move the federal government is making that may affect them. They say rejection of the Bay du Nord project would be a mistake.
We can produce oil and gas with strong and stringent environmental regulations and oversight. And why would we not want to do that and to hand off that potential to be produced in countries with weak rules, lax rules, and that plan to use the resources to cause havoc in the world? It just doesn't make any sense.
Both the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers and the newly renamed Energy NL say the delays are worrisome. But for the federal government's part, Canada's Natural Resources Minister says the land bids delay doesn't signal an oil industry shutdown.
So I would simply say to people that they shouldn't read anything into the delay. We certainly recognize the importance of the offshore to Newfoundland and Labrador, and certainly there will be decisions made in the coming few months.
Today, Newfoundland and Labrador's Energy Minister Andrew Parsons told CBC News the final decision on going ahead with the land sale bids rests with the province, and he's confident that it will go ahead. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Price of gas is up slightly today, and so is diesel and other fuels after yet another increase. So let's start this with gasoline. The maximum price of gas is up 2 cents a litre across the province, according to the Public Utilities Board. That puts the price of self-serve at $1.89 per litre on the Avalon Peninsula. It's even higher in other parts of the province. And diesel, it rose by 6 cents yesterday. It's up again today by another 8.6 cents a litre for a total increase of more than 14 cents since Tuesday. Furnace oil also increased by 7.7 cents a litre for a total increase of 14 cents a litre so far this week. And stove oil, that's up by more than 8 cents for a total of 13.5 cents since yesterday. Propane is the lone fuel to see a decrease. It's down more than 8 cents per litre. This update marks the 5th change in fuel prices in a week.
A windy day today, especially here in the metro area. Saw gusts near 74 kilometers per hour earlier this afternoon. We're seeing those windy conditions really all along the northeast coast. And the reason for that is where that area of low pressure that's been bringing all of this weather is currently sitting. It's offshore, but we've got this ridge of high pressure to the west, and it's squeezing all of that air, and that's why we're seeing those windy conditions. But the good news is that as we head through tonight and into tomorrow, we actually are going to see those winds ease thanks to that ridge of high pressure. So there's a look at those winds right there for St. John's. You'll see by the time we get into Friday night, pretty light winds. And then if we take a look at what's happening across the province, the winds will ease pretty much across the board tomorrow. But as our next system moves in, we're going to start to see those winds increase by Saturday night, and most areas will be seeing those windy conditions through the day on Saturday thanks to our next weather maker. I'll break the full forecast down coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. A lawyer charged in an upcoming sexual assault case can't keep his name secret. That's the decision of a Supreme Court judge, but we still can't tell you this person's name. While the judge ruled that his identity shouldn't be shielded from disclosure, the lawyer says it should be kept that way for now. Here now's Ariana Kelland explains why.
He's a well-known lawyer who argued that publicly identifying him would risk his business and his reputation, and he's being represented by some pretty heavy hitters: Jerome Kennedy and Rosellen Sullivan of St. John's, and Scott Hutchinson of a high-profile firm in Toronto. The accused was charged last year with 4 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of sexual interference. The complainant was 12 at the time of the earliest alleged offense. Now, those proceedings are going through court, but last year he was granted an interim publication ban on his identity. CBC and CTV went to court arguing that the ban would interfere with the open court principle and the freedom of the press. Yesterday, Justice James Adams sided with the media. Adams said protecting the man's identity because of his profession would undermine the public's confidence in the administration of justice, and added that justice done in secrecy is contrary to the tenets of a democratic society. But the accused says he wants to take the case to the Supreme Court of Canada and argues that until then, his name should remain under a publication ban. We'll be back here in court tomorrow morning to determine if that will be granted or if his identity could be publicly disclosed. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, there is a sad outcome to the search for a man missing on the West Coast. The RCMP say the body of Brian Hall was found inside his vehicle today near the community of Felix Cove. Hall was 31. The Stephenville man was reported missing on Monday. Police say the chief medical examiner's office is now involved in the investigation. A helicopter was helping to search for him, and police had been asking residents in his neighborhood to check their surveillance video for footage of Hall or his vehicle. Well, now to Brussels, where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spent today in meetings with Canada's NATO and G7 partners. They're discussing the Russian invasion of Ukraine. NATO Secretary General called it the greatest security challenge to the alliance in a generation.
President Putin's invasion of Ukraine has changed our security environment for the long term. It's a new reality. It's a new normal, and NATO is responding for the long term.
As part of that long-term response, NATO leaders have approved the deployment of 4 new battle groups along its eastern flank with Russia. NATO will also continue to supply arms and protective equipment to Ukrainian forces and its members, and other allies will continue to tighten economic sanctions against Vladimir Putin and his allies. Well, meanwhile, this province continues to roll out the welcome mat for Ukrainian refugees. A 4-member team of provincial government staff has been on the ground in Poland for the past week, trying to help Ukrainians who want to make a home in this province. The Ukrainian Family Support Desk is offering information sessions about immigration and support services. Sonia Parker is one of the team members, and she says they're also connecting Ukrainians with potential employers in this province.
Our office is doing something that was never done before, which is amazing, and it is job matching. So what we do is we also offer resume tailoring. So we sit down with those individuals. We help them write their resumes if they don't have them, or we help them translate those resumes to English, and then we provide those resumes to our office in St. John's, which then goes directly to employers, and employers are already reached out to us saying that they want to hire Ukrainians that are qualified for those positions, so we are able to match them to those jobs. So those are just few things that we are able to do right now.
Parker says it's not just potential jobs on offer. Later in the show, she'll talk about what they're telling Ukrainians about what life is like in this province.
We've got some cloudy skies here in the east. Nice day tomorrow, but things are going to get a little messy as we head towards the weekend. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
It was a cold, windy day out there today in St. John's. Tomorrow's Friday, though, heading into the weekend. How's it looking?
Yeah, well, it looks nice, actually. Things are going to improve. Now, the west coast of the island's on an absolutely gorgeous day today, thanks to a ridge of high pressure. Let's take a look at the setup right now. There is that ridge. You can see there, not a whole lot of cloud cover to talk about, really. All of that cloud cover is thanks to that area of low pressure to the east. But as it moves further east, it's going to pull that cloud cover with it. But we are talking about some of those colder temperatures in place right now. So everything that is falling as flurries thanks to those cold upper levels. But as the next system starts to get organized and head towards the Maritime Province and then eventually to Newfoundland and Labrador, we are going to see a little bit of a warm up in some areas, particularly eastern areas of the island. Taking a look at the temperatures today, hovering between 0 and about 2 or 3 degrees. That's right around where we should be this time of year. Labrador, looking at those temperatures between 1 really, and -2 through Makovic and Cartwright. This afternoon conditions have dramatically improved for you, but left lots of snow in the wake. -2 right now is what it's sitting in Corner Brook, but rather Cartwright, but it feels more like -6, and we got a bit of a wind chill out there, particularly again along the northeast coast. No surprise where we're seeing those winds into the double digits. Twillingate feeling more like -12 and -10 is what it's feeling like in St. John's. So there's a better look of that cloud cover moving further east. You can see that line right there as it continues. And as that ridge of high pressure moves in, things will actually clear out quite nicely tonight, and eventually the winds will ease for some areas as well. As you can see, future tracker showing not a whole lot happening. However, we will see a few flurries for the western portions of Labrador, and then eventually some clouds will move in as we head through the overnight tonight for the west coast. But other than that, nothing. Temperatures will be chilly tonight into the -4 to -8 degree range across most of the island. The winds will stay brisk, though, for those areas along the northeast, still gusting about 60 kilometers per hour. Northern Peninsula, you're looking at some cooler temperatures into the double digits, and then same thing across Labrador. -6 will be the overnight low in Lab City tonight, under some light winds through the overnight. But again, those flurries will move in, which is going to keep those temperatures a bit warmer. As we head through tomorrow, looking beautiful, at least to start. Temperatures above 0, which is nice, 0 to about 4 degrees. Sunshine will make it feel nicer as well. Winds will be out of the northwest about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, but overall, a quiet day, and then snow will move in for Lab City. So that's ahead of our next weather maker. So we do have a couple of warnings already in place, some wind warnings for the southwest, particularly Port aux Basques, and Wreckhouse wind warning in place, as well as a winter storm warning, winter storm watch for Corner Brook and Gros Morne. And that's because that next system is going to move in and bring some significant snowfall as well. We're looking at a good chunk of central, western, and even the northern peninsula as we get through the day on Saturday, seeing somewhere between 15 to 20 centimeters. This is just an early indication at this point, but that's definitely possible. Now, areas along southern Newfoundland, including the Avalon, will likely see pretty significant freezing rain potential, and this will happen Friday night into Saturday morning and continue into the afternoon. So we'll just time that out for you. This is taking us through to tomorrow. Ridge of high pressure in place, beautiful weather. Clouds will be on the increase. Then we'll start to see that snow develop for the southern areas of the island. As we head through the overnight, that's when we'll see that pink and the potential to change over to even ice pellets, and then eventually freezing rain through the day on Saturday. Most of central, northern peninsula, and Labrador will stay on the cold side of that, with some snow through the afternoon on Saturday. So let's look at the forecast. We'll look ahead when I come back.
To national news now. As many as 6.5 million Canadians could be eligible for a new national dental care program. The proposed plan is part of a deal between the federal Liberals and the NDP that was announced earlier this week. Now, it would provide dental care to low-income households. CBC's Christine Birak has details now about how that program would work.
It's not a visit most people look forward to, but roughly 1 in 5 Canadians avoids the dentist because they can't afford it.
I needed my wisdom teeth taken out.
Colette Langdon was in pain, but couldn't pay for the procedure right away.
And as a single parent, that was just not something I could do.
The federal government's proposed dental program is promising more help. Set to start this year for kids under 12, it'll expand to cover those under 18, seniors, and people living with disabilities, with a full rollout in 2025. And the program would be restricted to families making less than $90,000 a year.
So I'm thrilled that this is a step towards providing really urgent dental care towards people who need it.
While critics argue it'll cost too much, experts insist the returns will be incalculable.
When people don't receive the dental care that they need, it often develops into more serious issues, costing the healthcare system a lot of money.
In Ontario, estimates have shown someone ends up in an ER almost every 9 minutes with dental pain. Most cannot be treated, and visits have cost the province up to $31 million a year.
Depending on where you live, you'll be eligible for a program or potentially for services, and you live in another province or territory, you may not be.
Doctors say the big questions now are: what services will be covered, who will deliver them, and which level of government will make the payments.
I would argue that the federal government might want to look around the world to sort of see what is working in different places and try to model something around best practices.
He adds it's complicated, but Germany offers a mix of public and semi-private dental insurance. Medically necessary treatments are covered, but others aren't. Tough decisions that'll need to be made quickly in order to get Canada's program up and running. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
I don't understand why there's nothing being done. This happens year after year. 1, 2, 3, 4 people dying, freezing to death outside.
Families and friends fear the worst for their loved ones braving the brutal cold.
When it comes to homelessness, one woman says there's too much talk in Labrador, not enough action. That story just ahead. Tonight we're hearing from the families and friends who've lost loved ones while homeless in Labrador. And this is a follow-up to a story that we brought you last month about the lives and deaths of Luki Karpik and Frederica Benuin. Both were facing homelessness and both died in the frigid Labrador winter.
And there are others. Now we're hearing from their friends and their families, as well as those still waiting for loved ones to come home out of the cold. Here now's Ariana Kelland has that story.
Susanna, known as Suzanne, Rich Poker is remembered for this, a trademark rosy smile, one that brought joy to others but masked so much pain.
It was a sin because she was such a good girl. She didn't want to harm or hurt anybody. She was just getting by, day by day, just getting by.
She was stuck. She was waiting for the light, to heal and just feel feelings fully, because she missed her loved ones.
Rich Poker faced snow, wind, cold, and extreme pain. Physical pain that could only be eclipsed by the pain of loss. Rich Poker lost her brother, partner, and mother. And in 2015, her 17-year-old son, James Poker, went missing. There was a grueling 11-day search with a devastating ending. He perished on the sea ice off Natwashish.
Yeah, she carried him for 9 months. That's why she loved all her children too. She adores her children.
Like dozens of others in Happy Valley Goose Bay, Rich Poker had unstable housing. But her cousin says she wasn't really homeless. She had a home in Natwashish. It just wasn't one she wanted to go back to.
It was hard. She just don't want to go home because there's memories there for her family that passed on.
On February 8, 2020, Rich Poker visited the Sandbar Lounge. Don Crocker was working that night.
It was a real cold night. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that night. It was like minus 40. I sat and chatted with her for a bit, and anyway, she said she was going home, and I said, now, Susanna, you got a place to go, do you? And she said, oh, yes. I said, don't be telling me lies. Now, you got a place to go. And she said, yeah, I got a place to go.
2 days later, Susanna Rich Poker's body was discovered on the trails, a wooded area in town where homeless and transient people are known to sleep and hang out. Her family says she died of a heart attack.
And I can't get it out of my mind. I can't get it. I can see her there. I didn't see her there, but in my mind, I can clearly see her there.
Underpinning the issue of homelessness and addiction is intergenerational trauma stemming from relocation, the denigration of culture, racism, and sexual and physical abuse. It's complex. The child welfare system has also caused pain and controversy as children were removed from their communities, away from their families and culture. Justine Noah lost her brother in Davis Inlet years before. He was drinking and died in the Labrador winter. Now, Noah fears the only brother she has left will share the same fate.
He's been homeless a lot here in Goose Bay and sleeping at nights outside. And I don't know how many years now.
Noah was once a police officer in Davis Inlet. That 12-year career is over, but the instinct to protect is still there.
It triggers me back to my late brother, and it's really hurt my feelings. I keep thinking about my brother. I think about their families. Sometimes I just ride around at nights to see if I can find anybody on the street or anywhere outside the homes, just driving by, and I still feel like I'm working, but I'm not.
We found Toby Noah in late February at the Labrador Inn. He'd only been staying there for about a week.
Yeah, nobody got to worry about me. I know how to hunt. I know how to survive in the bush. I know how to do everything.
It's so cold.
I know.
Noah says he doesn't like staying at the shelter and thinks the town needs a place like the Gathering Place in St. John's that offers housing and wraparound services.
No, I don't need help anyway, man. I got my own help anyway. There's only one life. That's my life. I gotta handle it. That's my own. Nobody else. God gave me the choice to have my own life, so I choose this.
Justine Noah says that there's a dire need for a larger shelter, one that has supports like an addictions counselor. But both Noah and Ruby Poker say that healing has to happen first. They say they can't force their family members in from the cold, but when they're ready, they say they'll be there.
Must be the site because there's clothes here.
Crocker says the death of her friend changed the course of her life. Susanna wasn't the first to die this way, and Crocker had enough. She's collected hundreds of blankets, sleeping bags, and feed and hand warmers, at times delivering it to the trails herself. And Crocker has since changed jobs to a nonprofit thrift store that helps women like her friend.
It's all for her because I don't want anybody else to have to, pass as she did.
But she's under no illusions that her charity work will solve the problem. That, she says, is up to the government systems that should protect them.
All that's being done up here is talk, talk, talk. One organization to another organization, to one level of government, to another level of government. It's all talk. Where is it getting? Nowhere. We're not getting anywhere. Talk is cheap.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Of course, people know about Canada, but not necessarily about Newfoundland and Labrador. So we have to show them on the map. We have to tell them about the icebergs and the whales and show them some photos. The response is very positive.
Making the pitch to come to this province.
Meet part of Newfoundland and Labrador's Ukrainian desk in Poland as they recruit refugees.
Our tour of Southern Labrador's abandoned communities continues with photographer Ed O'Reilly. Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
The war in Ukraine is entering its second month. President Volodymyr Zelensky marked the tragic milestone by making an appeal for a global demonstration of support for Ukraine.
From this day and after then, show your standing. Come from your offices, your homes, your schools and universities. Come in the name of peace. Come with Ukrainian symbols to support Ukraine, to support freedom, to support life. Come to your squares, your streets. Make yourselves visible and heard. Say that people matter, freedom matters, peace matters, Ukraine matters.
And the Ukrainian military is claiming a significant strike against Russian forces. You see the explosion there. The Ukrainian Navy says these pictures posted to social media show a burning Russian landing ship. It's the type of vessel that would be used for an amphibious assault. The ship was docked in a Russian-controlled port.
Provincial government workers from Newfoundland and Labrador are now on the ground in Poland, getting ready to help Ukrainians make their way to this province. The 4-person team is there now. Sonia Parker is a provincial immigration officer and who is originally from Poland. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, in the few days that you've been on the ground, give me an idea, what are you and the team doing there in Poland?
We are doing so much. Our work really doesn't stop. We talk to people on the streets. We visit temporary shelters. We meet with different officials here on the ground and organizations that are involved in helping Ukrainians. And our purpose here is to spread the message and tell people about Newfoundland and Labrador.
And what sort of reaction do you get from them when you start talking to them about Newfoundland and Labrador?
So very interestingly, of course, people know about Canada, but not necessarily about Newfoundland and Labrador. So we have to show them on the map. We have to tell them about the icebergs and the whales and show them some photos. But everybody is just amazed that this is actually happening, that this is real, that we are offering so much support for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada. So the response is very positive. In general, we have people who speak to us on the streets and are very open. And of course, there are some people who just say that they would prefer staying closer to Ukraine and wait the situation out.
I want to ask about that because it is a very volatile situation, and for a lot of these families, the men have to stay back in Ukraine. It's the women and children who've left the country. So how many of them do want to actually leave Europe when everything is still so much in flux right now?
So it's really hard to say and to talk about the numbers at this stage. We're all expecting that people will open up to the opportunity to come to Canada. And even though it's women and children mostly, as you said, a lot of husbands actually call their wives and say, you should go to Canada. It's a safe place for you to be. But it is a big move. It's a big change. And sometimes it takes time for people to actually research the province and to take that leap of faith. So we're just hopeful at this stage. We're just providing them with the information that they need and the support with their applications, as well as job matching. But in the end, it's their decision to make whether they decide to move to Canada. And if they do that, then whether they decide to actually go to Newfoundland and Labrador.
You're originally from Poland. What's it like for you to be back in your original country and be able to sort of share the message of what Newfoundland and Labrador has to offer?
It is a little bit surreal, to be honest, to be back here and to see what's happening here on the ground. I walk on the streets of Warsaw and I hear Polish as well as Ukrainian, which are very similar languages, but I hear those languages and it brings me back to where Poland was in the previous century. Of course, I don't remember that, but I only know from my grandparents' stories, and it's very surreal. But the thing that I feel is just pride to come from this amazing country right now, because the support is just amazing. And I think I'm hopeful that if Ukrainians come to Newfoundland, they will see very similar support from Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
When you're chatting with people there and they ask you about your decision to leave Poland and settle in Newfoundland and Labrador, what's the message that you give them?
See, for me personally, it was one of the best decisions that I've made. I don't think I would be able to achieve as much as I achieved right now being in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, thank you very much for taking some time and speaking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for so much support from the community.
Well, a woman in Digby, Nova Scotia is introducing her neighbors to a cherished Ukrainian tradition. Her unique fundraiser has already raised thousands of dollars for people of Ukraine. The CBC's Colleen Jones has that colorful story.
The Ukrainian Pysanki tradition of painting eggs.
And the 8-pointed star is a very beautiful symbol of the four corners of the earth.
Diane Accent is a first-generation Canadian. Her grandparents immigrated here after the Second World War.
It was my family and people that were strangers that brought them to Canada. My Guido came 5 years before.
She was taught this ancient art as a young girl.
Tool back into the flame, warm up that copper funnel, put it into the beeswax, draw it up, and then you just continue drawing.
Her friends have gathered here at the Sydney Street pub to paint more eggs. As each of them melts the wax and carefully paints their design on their yellow eggs, they finish it with this, a final dip in the blue dye, Ukrainian colors. It's a small way to show they're part of a global community of ordinary people, showing they stand with the people in Ukraine.
And the ribbon that is going around the egg that has no beginning and no ending is a sign of eternity. And then on the back, of course, I could not but put a heart, because peace for Ukraine is what we're all wishing for.
Diane hosted a workshop teaching Pysanki. The event raised over $6,000 for the Canadian Red Cross, and as people heard about her initiative, the goodwill spread. People came in off the street and donated hundreds of dollars. Everyone said the same thing. They just needed to do something. Saskia Geertz owns the Sydney Street Pub and Cafe. That this little town, known as the world capital of scallops, is showing they're the capital of caring too.
Any little thing that we can do to show that we support them and that they're not alone, that's just so important.
On the waterfront, another sign that Digby stands with Ukraine. The town raised the Ukrainian flag, a gesture they hope shows people care in every corner of the world. Colleen Jones, CBC News, Digby.
Members of the Ontario Provincial Police and the Ottawa Police Force answered questions today about their response to this winter's Convoy protest. Senior police authorities appeared before the House of Commons Public Safety and National Security Committee, and one MP asked Ottawa's interim police chief if it was true, as at least one media outlet reported, that loaded firearms were found in protesters' vehicles.
Yes or no, interim chief, were loaded firearms found in the trucks during the protest clearing operation? Yes or no?
So as I indicated, Mr. Chair, there has been no charges laid to date in relations to weapons at the occupation site.
It's just a clear question, interim chief. Like, were weapons found? Like, were loaded firearms found? Yes or no?
So in relation to no, not
Okay.
to relating to any charges to this point.
Thank you, Chief. That's very illuminating.
Now, the Crown has laid more charges against 3 leaders of the so-called Freedom Convoy. That happened today when Tamara Litch, Chris Barber, and Pat King appeared in a court virtually. King, one of the most vocal leaders, faces 10 criminal charges in relation to the 3-week occupation.
And staying with this story, the so-called Freedom Convoy protest brought weeks of confrontation, and some are now facing the repercussions. The CBC's Rochelle El-Soufi reports.
I regret every day going.
Martin Joseph Angelhart is full of regret.
Like, I have nothing left.
Speaking to CBC out of his SUV he now calls home, he wishes he never joined the convoy protest in Ottawa that he says left him out of $13,000.
I thought that was a cause, that was bigger than me. And I thought it was worth the effort to go.
Bank statements sent to CBC show thousands of dollars e-transferred and thousands more dollars spent at a truck stop near Coventry Road, where Angel Heart was stationed for the majority of the protest. While millions were raised through online fundraisers, Angel Heart said he never received a cent, even before the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act that saw over 250 bank accounts linked to the protest frozen. Angel Heart, originally from Fort McKay, Alberta, felt drawn to the movement after he says he was prevented from seeing a dying friend at a hospital because of COVID-19 restrictions.
Everybody that went to Ottawa was like a magnet. They needed something to believe in, and like me.
On February 15th, Angel Heart says he was arrested. He was released under the conditions he leaves Ottawa.
You may have people with, that just jump in seeking a sense of community.
University of Ottawa law professor Jean Veloso says the cost to participate in that protest was high.
We're not talking about people with a lot of resources. They have their trucks, they have some funds. That's the majority of the protesters down there. We're talking about middle class, sometimes low middle class.
He also points to the class action lawsuit launched by downtown Ottawa residents and businesses suing protesters for $300 million. He says it could bankrupt those named in the suit. When it comes to all the donations, it's hard to track down where all the money went, said Veloso.
Not all of people that were there receive the money that some organizer received to crowdsourcing. We have no idea if there was dark money into that, in the sense that other sources of funding that we don't know. It was not publicized.
For Angel Heart, he wants to offer an apology to the people of Ottawa.
I'm sorry you guys had to take it on. All I wanted was to help people.
Rochelle El Soufi, CBC News, Ottawa.
Here and Now has a backstage pass for you for the big James Bond concert with the NSO tomorrow at the Arts and Culture Centre.
Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall, face it all.
A symphony, musicians, and some singers who will leave you shaken and stirred.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna go see some wildlife. We might see the muskrat. Like, this is really nice muskrat habitat.
It's very deeply ingrained to be afraid of bats. They're really important.
The first bird to be threatened, really, would be the game with global warming.
It's only found in this little tiny strip. It's part of Newfoundland, right?
Well, 60 years of Bond. Tomorrow evening, I'll be emceeing the Newfoundland Symphony Orchestra's annual fundraiser, which is finally returning to the Arts and Culture Centre in St. John's. More than a dozen local singers will join the NSO for classic and modern themes from the Bond movies. And we caught up with some of the singers, including the youngest, Rachel Cousins.
You were never on my side. Fool me once, fool me twice. Are you dead, the paradise? Now you'll never see me cry. There's just no time to die.
What I like about the song that I'm singing, I have always been a really big Billie Eilish fan, and I've always loved singing her songs just because of the way that the tone fits with my tone. I've just fell in love with the song the minute I watched the movie. I was obsessed with this one song out of it, and I think that I love it so much because it feels so dreamy, and there's something like almost sultry about it, but like it's so, it's like you feel the characters through a song, which is something that I haven't felt in a really long time because it's been a while since I've done a show this big. So I think that's why I love this song so much.
But you'll never have my heart. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall, face it all together. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall, face it all together at skyfall.
I feel honored, honestly. I love the music, and I get to perform one of the Dell songs, so it's really, really fun. I feel so excited and honored, and I hope that I do it justice. Particularly with Adele stuff, I think that she has a lot of colors that are very much more jazz and blues oriented, so I do think that some of the things that she does vocally lend itself to jazz as well, so I think I can add some of my own stuff in there, and it still is appropriate for Adele.
I've seen this diamond cut through harder, man, than you yourself, and if you must pretend it may be your end, arm yourself because no one else here will save you. The odds will betray you, and I will replace you.
I dig the song that I'm performing at the concert because it's got that, you know, classic Bond feel to it. So it's orchestral, yet it's very much a rock song. And I've seen Chris Cornell do it, you know, just stripped down. So I don't know, I kind of feel like it's kind of in my wheelhouse.
Having a symphony behind you feels like you're in a movie. It's a feeling that I haven't felt before. I haven't performed with a huge orchestra like this before, and I mean, obviously this is a full NSO. Like they're taking up the whole arts and culture stage. So it felt very surreal to just be rehearsing with them. I can't imagine how it's going to feel in the show when I'm, you know, in the gown and all of those things. But it feels amazing. It really does feel like you're in a movie and you're just all on the same page. And it's a really special feeling that I'm so happy that I get to feel in what I do day to day.
It's honestly, it's like an out-of-body experience because, you know, it's a performer's dream to sing with an orchestra and to have that support behind you. So you just want to stand on top of it and live up to it, really. And so it's a really out-of-body experience. It's super honoring.
Well, I like orchestral music a lot. And I'm a big fan of jazz, and I'm a big fan of a tremendous amount of classical music as well. But what I do live, because I don't have the budget, is rock and roll. And I like things being really loud. So I really appreciate this thing in particular because you've got those blending genres. And I think that's one of the cool things where the Bond stuff really gets to shine, like the Billie Eilish thing, or even going back to like Nobody Does It Better, like, one of the great ones. It's really, really enjoyable getting to sit and go move through the canon and hear everybody do their interpretations of it. So, I mean, seriously, man, this is just bread and butter. Yeah, I love it.
That looks like it's going to be a great event. What a
Good time.
lineup.
Oh,
Fantastic.
it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking ahead to the weekend now, and some messy weather on the way.
Yeah, things are going to start to get a bit messy as we head through tomorrow night and then through the day on Saturday. Let's time that out for you just to show you that area of low pressure. So things are going to be pretty messy through New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia. By Friday night, really, you're going to already be seeing that rain through most of Nova Scotia, but then the system heads towards Newfoundland and Labrador. And at this point, that area of high pressure that we've been talking about is going to head north, and the winds are going to ramp up again for the southwestern portion of the province. So we're talking winds between 80 to 100 kilometers per hour in the red there, some purple, particularly in the Rec House area. We could see those gusts between 120 to 130 kilometers per hour early Saturday morning. Most areas are seeing those winds gusting between 60 to 80 kilometers per hour. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see the winds will be gusting as we head into Saturday afternoon up across coastal areas of Labrador again. So that combined with the snow will lead to blowing snow through a good chunk of the afternoon, hence those winter storm watches along the coast. They will likely turn into winter storm warnings as we head through tomorrow afternoon as we get closer to the system. Big chance of some freezing rain all along the southern areas of the island as well as the Avalon. But by the time we get into Saturday afternoon, looking like most of eastern areas of the island should transition through to rain, with that snow continuing for the northern peninsula as well as coastal areas of Labrador. So temperatures are going to warm up. They should be sitting somewhere between 2 to 4 degrees for the island, a little cooler for the northern peninsula, and then temperatures hovering around 1 or 2 degrees for a good chunk of Labrador through the day on Saturday. Snowfall amounts as we head into Sunday morning, we're looking at northern peninsula picking up between 10 to 15 centimeters, southeastern Labrador as well, but the most should fall through central and the west coast, particularly in those higher elevations where we could see 20, maybe even 30 centimeters of snow. Now, as we head through Sunday morning, a little bit of a break in the system, then another area of low pressure will move in. This is going to bring some warmer air as well as the potential for rain through most of Sunday. And then eventually that snow will end across Labrador. Temperatures bumping up between 4 to 8 degrees through the day, and then even 2 to 3 degrees across Labrador as well. Now, we are going to stay in that warmer air, at least the warmer trend, as we head through Tuesday, but unfortunately the rain will stick around with us. And same thing through central Newfoundland as far as the temperatures go. However, it does look like everything that falls at this point on Tuesday should fall as snow. And same thing for western Newfoundland. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at pretty much snow or flurries right through Tuesday. And then a similar forecast for western Labrador. You'll hover around 0 degrees for a few days and then drop back below 0 as we head into Tuesday. Now, I showed you Western Brook Gorge from the air, or last week, I think, or earlier this week. I can't even remember now. But Rodney shared this photo with me, surface level. Thought I'd share that photo.
It's like sea level.
Another
right?
perspective there. Yeah, great shot. Thank you for that, Rodney. And if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Beautiful.
Probably one of the most photographed landscape areas in the province, I'd bet.
It is something else.
Right? Along with Gross Morin on the west
That's right,
coast,
yeah.
Signal Hill.
Stunning.
I should have a contest. So I'm not going to be here because, of course, I've been telling you all week about the big Bond concert with the NSO tomorrow. I think there might be a dozen tickets left, but it might be sold out as well. So I'm not going to be here. So
you'll be wearing your snazzy tuxedo tomorrow night, I assume.
I hope so. And Chrissy Holmes is going to be filling in for me tomorrow.
Yep, it's going to be the three ladies on the show tomorrow night, so be sure to tune in. Good night, everyone.
Bye.